big issue right now is the not only the religious liberty issue, but abortion, because of a ruling that a federal judge out in Kansas City made affecting the way abortion clinics are treated with their doctors. Missouri Attorney General Josh Hawley joining us right now to talk more about this decision by a federal judge on the a couple of Missouri abortion rulings. And I guess, first of all, I'm not surprised when I hear about something like this at the federal court level when it comes to a state's attempt to regulate abortion.
Well, and I tell you what this really is, Mark. It's an attempt to protect the health and safety of women who are seeking this procedure, this abortion procedure. And these laws that Missouri has had on the books for years and years now, they just require abortion clinics, which, by the way, are state-licensed medical facilities. They require them to meet the same standards that any outpatient surgical center would have to meet. I mean, these are not onerous standards. These are the kind of things you would want any medical center to meet so that it's a safe place. So it is very disappointing to see the federal judge strike these down. This is we saw the U.S. Supreme Court do this last year with very similar laws in Texas. But here's the thing. We are going to fight this on appeal and continue to stand up for the health and safety of women in our state. So
I don't want to get you in the position of having to be critical of a federal judge. Is this a situation where we think it's the individual judge, or upon appeal, do we have a better chance of winning this argument? What's your position on that?
Well, really the problem is the United States Supreme Court. I mean, the United States Supreme Court ruled last spring at about this time, that the Texas laws that are somewhat similar to the laws here in Missouri that we are defending, that those laws had constitutional problems. I thought that that case was wrongly decided. I said so at the time. I continue to think so now. Those laws protected the health and safety of women. Now, these laws here in Missouri, our circumstances a little different here in Missouri, but that's given judges across the country who are liberal judges, that's given them cover to go out and strike down perfectly reasonable laws that protect health and safety in medical facilities. So we are going to take this thing up on appeal, and we will continue to fight this as long as we have to, as long as we can, in order to protect health and safety, in order to make sure that medical facilities in our state are safe. And, it was Bill Clinton who years ago said abortion ought to be safe, legal, and rare, and if it's going to be legal in our state and in our country, it needs to be safe. And that is what these regulations are about.
Yeah, and just to be clear, all this required is that the doctor at an abortion clinic has to have the ability to go see patients at the closest medical center. Is that correct?
Yeah, a couple of things, actually. It says that the doctor's got to be able to admit patients into a nearby hospital, which makes perfect sense, because if there is an emergency during an abortion, if there's a medical emergency, and we know from Planned Parenthood's own records here in Missouri that there have been medical emergencies during abortion, the doctor needs to be able to admit the patient so the patient can get good care. That's number one. Number two, the law also requires that these medical facilities meet certain health standards, health and safety standards, just like other outpatient health facilities in the state. So those are the main regulations. Very reasonable. Many, many states have them across the country. Very disappointing to see the judge say that basically abortion clinics are regulation-free zones in the state of Missouri. Wrong decision, and that's why we're going to appeal.
Yeah, it sounds like a woman's health issue to me. I hope that we're successful on that appeal as well. Let me ask you this, Mr. Attorney General. How heartened are you with Judge Gorsuch now being seated on the Supreme Court that issues like religious liberty and the like are going to get a better hearing at that level?
I am so excited about Justice Gorsuch. I think it is one of the most exciting things that has happened in the last few months. It is his legacy on the Supreme Court, I think, is going to be a very proud and influential one. I know him a little bit. As you may recall, I worked on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals his first year as a judge on that circuit. I have thought since then that he is a formidable intellect, that he is an incredibly fair judge. He's a consummate professional, and he's also he is truly, truly brilliant. So it is wonderful to have him on the court. I hope that the state of Missouri will have the chance in future months and years to be up at that court and to argue in front of him. And I look forward to what he's going to do on the U.S. Supreme Court.
So now one of the first cases he's heard arguments on involves a Missouri case with the Trinity Lutheran out there in mid-Missouri and the question of whether or not they should be eligible for a state grant program that helped make their playground safer. My understanding is your office has officially recused itself from that case, but can you tell us anything about it?
Well, you are correct, and I'm personally recused, Mark, because my position on this case is well known and has been public for a long, long time. When I was still in private practice as a constitutional attorney, I filed a brief on behalf of the church. So I said, as a private lawyer, that I thought the church ought to win this case, and that has always been my position, and that's why when I got elected, I said, well, I can't defend the position of the Nixon administration, of the old governor, who wanted to discriminate against the church. And so I recused myself, and now my office is recused. But look, I mean, it's no secret. I hope that the church prevails in this case. I think that is the right outcome. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens here. We'll know by the end of June, likely. But in any event, my office will stand ready in future cases to defend the new policy that Governor Greitens announced, which is no discrimination on the basis of faith. I believe that it's absolutely the right policy, and we are ready to defend it.
Just quickly so that I understand, because I read an article yesterday that confused me a little bit, and I would assume it would confuse my listeners. The article said that there was something in the state constitution that wouldn't allow this to happen, but then it also said in the next sentence that Governor Greitens had changed the policy. So there are clearly two different issues here.
Well, Missouri has in its constitution what is sometimes called a Blaine Amendment, and that amendment, that part of our constitution, says that the state cannot give benefits to religion. But Missouri also has in its constitution a provision that says you cannot discriminate against churches, against religions, against people of faith, which is, of course, absolutely right. So I do not believe that the Missouri Constitution requires discrimination on the basis of religion, and I don't think the governor believes that either. So I think folks who say that this is what the Missouri Constitution requires are wrong, and I hope the Supreme Court will clarify that in its decision in the Trinity Lutheran case.
A bit later in the show today, we're actually going to speak with the director of that school, Trinity Lutheran, so I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say and her experience up at the Supreme Court. Mr. Attorney General, before I let you go, just because it's been in the news cycle this week, I know that Peter Kinder and some other politicians have been pushing your name as a possible Senate candidate. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, I don't know that I have anything more to say on that than I've already said. Of course, I'm very humbled by the support of those Missourians. That's very kind of them. But what I have said over and over, Mark, is that I am working very hard, as hard as I can, at the job that the people have so recently elected me to do. And I think it is awfully early, way too early, to be talking about any future election for anything. So I've got to keep my head down and keep working hard here at this job because, as we've just been talking about, there is so much to do.
Attorney General Josh Hawley, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good information there from the Attorney General, and appreciate him giving us a few minutes of his time today with good information on fighting for religious liberty and those sorts of. And interesting to me that he in his esteemed opinion, Missouri law doesn't prevent the state from providing a grant to a church-operated school that simply, it's not even for education purposes. It's not a slippery slope argument. Anyway, I'll get to your phone calls on that. 314-969-9797, 866-455-9797. I'll get your calls next. Stick around.
The Marc Cox Show on FM News Talk 97.1, 98.7, AM 1490, and 97.1talk.com.
Check out our newest web video series, Annie Got Your Gun. Join Annie from The Annie Fry Show as she goes through the steps of purchasing her first handgun and getting the proper training. Watch now at 971talk.com. Brought to you by Southern Armory and U.S. Law Shield.
If you have a pool, you know that keeping it up and running during the summer can be